Hi Year 5, today we are going to be learning about who ruled the Anglo-Saxons, okay? So, the Anglo-Saxons had many famous kings, okay? But the early Anglo-Saxons weren't ruled by one person and they were not united, okay? The Anglo-Saxons were broken up into 4 different tribes and each tribe took part of Britain as their own. So, in the purple area we had the Northumbria. That would be one tribe. Then we have Mercia, then East Anglia, Wessex, and Kent. Okay, so each of those was a different Anglo-Saxon tribe, and each of them had their own king. And they were often strong and successful, and they would often lead a small army. The strongest king would often claim to be the Bretwalda, which meant the ruler of all Britain. Okay, so you can imagine there was probably a few battles to try and claim that title of ruler of all of Britain. Okay, so the Anglo-Saxon laws, they had them just like we have today. However, they didn't have prisons back then. So people who were found guilty of breaking rules either were executed, so killed, or were punished with fines. And there are some examples of those here, so we can see that if somebody broke into somebody else's home, they would be fined 5 shillings, which is about 25 pence in modern day money that we use now. So it doesn't sound like a lot to us, but to them it would have been a lot of money. People caught stealing might have had their nose or hands cut off. If they ran away, then they became outlaws, which means outside the law. Anyone could hunt them down unless they hid in a church. So the church was probably a bit of a sanctuary where nobody could hurt anybody else. And if you injured someone, you had to pay for the damage you've done to them. Or if you killed a person, so if you might have committed a murder or something, you would have had to pay money to the dead person's relative. Okay, so you can see here that there were many Anglo-Saxon kings and they had different lengths of reign. Okay, so reign is the period of time that they were a ruler. So you can see that King Edmund here ruled for 6 years. Edgar, he ruled for 16 years. Whereas this one over here, he only ruled for 2 years. Okay, so there are some questions here that you could have a look, you could research yourself on here. So who had the longest reign? Who had the shortest reign? Do you recognise any of the names? Can you find any periods where there was no king? And why do you think that might have happened? Okay. So here are 3 of the most famous Anglo-Saxon kings. You've got Offa of Mercia, Alfred the Great, and Edward the Confessor. So Offa was a proud and powerful king. He made the first pennies, so he was the first person to use the pennies and make them. And he built a ditch to protect his land. I imagine this to be a bit like a fort that people put around, that they put around castles, or they used to put around castles to protect where they lived. So I imagine it's a bit similar to that. Then there is Alfred the Great, possibly one of the most famous Anglo-Saxon kings, and he is one of the only kings in British history to be called great. And then we've got Edward the Confessor. He was a king in England for 24 years, and his death in 1066 led to the Norman conquest of England. Okay, I'll put this link on our home learning page so you can go and have a look, but it shows you a little bit of information about each of those 3 kings. And then your task for today is to research why Alfred the Great was called great and what made him so successful. So we saw before that he's probably one of the most famous Anglo-Saxon kings, and I want you to research why was he that. So why was he great and what made him so successful? I would like you to present this in any way you like. So you could do a poster, a presentation, it could be written, you could do it as a keynote or a Word document, or you could do it on Purple Mash or anything like that. And then your challenge after that is to look at these kings here Edmund and Harold II only have 1 year next to their name. Why do you think this is? So you can see here they only have 1016 and 1066. Why do you think that is?